Now, if you will all please put your hands over your head, just like this. Leave them there. Let's see how many of y'all can last to the end of this sermon. Go ahead and have a seat. Judging by all the sports memorabilia that is being worn this morning, apparently your football team is still playing. Since my team is not, I could care less. That's not true. I did watch a couple of teams get beat like red-haired stepchildren. If you're a red-haired stepchild, I am sorry. Exodus chapter 17. A little thing about this here is that, you know, at the end of the day, one team is going to win and one team is going to lose. And, you know, there, I've ruined your movie for you. Exodus chapter 17. We will look at all of 17 today. It's only 16 verses. And so today I'm going to read them. Last week I didn't. You go, oh man, you'll get used to it. And all the congregation of the people of Israel moved on from the wilderness of sin by stages according to the commandment of the Lord and camped at Rephidim. But there was no water for the people to drink. Therefore the people quarreled with Moses and said, "Give us to drink." And Moses said to them, "Why do you quarrel with me? Why do you test the Lord?" But the people thirsted there for water, and the people grumbled against Moses and said, "Why did you bring us up out of Egypt to kill us and our children and our livestock with thirst?" So Moses cried, said, "What shall I do with this people? They are almost ready to stone me." And the Lord said to Moses, "Pass before the people, taking with you some of the elders of Israel, and take in your hand a staff, and with which you struck the Nile. Go, behold, I will stand before you there at the rock of Horeb, and you shall strike the rock, and water shall come out of it, and the people will drink." And Moses did so in the sight of the elders of Israel, and he called the name of the place Massah and Meribah, because of the quarreling of the people of Israel, and because they tested the Lord by saying, "Is the Lord among us or not?" Then Amalek came and fought against Israel at Rephidim, and Moses said to Joshua, "Choose for us men and go out and fight Amalek, and tomorrow I will stand on top of the hill with the staff of God in my hand." So Joshua did as Moses told him and fought with Amalek, while Moses, Aaron, and Hur went on top of the hill. And whenever Moses held his hands, Israel prevailed, and whenever he lowered his hands, Amalek prevailed. But Moses' hand grew weary, so they took a stone and put it under him and sat on it, and he sat on it. And while Aaron and Hur held up his hands, one on one side and one on the other, so the hands were steady until the going down of the sun. And Joshua overwhelmed Amalek and his people with the sword. And the Lord said to Moses, "Write this in a memorial book and recite this in the ears of Joshua, and I will utterly blot out of memory Amalek from under the heaven." And Moses built an altar and called the name of it, "The Lord is my banner," saying, "A hand upon the throne of the Lord will have war with Amalek for generation to generation." All right, pick up here in 17. What do we kick off with? Kick off with more complaining. Amazingly, after several chapters in which the children of Israel have seen the mighty hand of God work before them, the minute they run into the next problem, it's, "Oh, boo-hoo-hoo, where's God?" You've seen the Lord deliver the children of Israel from a mighty army with a sea. Crush them where they were. Before that, you saw the Lord take a superpower to its variable knees through 10 plagues. Last week, we saw where the Lord made bitter water sweet, and still they complained. We saw where they had no food, and it was, "Woe is me. We had a better life in Egypt." You were a slave in Egypt. Yes, we were, but it was better. Why? Because the appearance of having some good things. We had food to eat. But you were a slave. Right. These people killed your children. Yeah, except for that. Other than that, we had a really good life. But you made bricks for a living. Right, without straw. Yes. If you're going to keep clouding the issue with the facts, we're never going to get anywhere in our complaining. This week, there's no water. And you would figure after 3 occasions with a long-suffering God, because I can tell you, folks, if God were me, get the terminology correct, if God were me, I'd have crushed these people like bugs a long time ago. Oh, you want to follow me? Hey, you look like good people. I think I'll pick you. Now I crush the other people, so you behave. After the long-sufferingness of God, listening to this, again it comes. You brought us, think about the unfathomableness of this complaint. The silliness of the complaint. You delivered us from oppression just to bring us out here, and we die over a 3-day period of thirst. That's a silly complaint. And you see this in the nature of who God is up to this point. Because if he was going to kill them, he doesn't have to do it a slow, painful way. You just kill them. And you see the long-sufferingness of God in his children as they gripe about water. God has Moses. By the way, you've all dropped your hands. God has Moses go through the camp with the elders and his staff. Now, I'd like for you to try this. Get a walking stick, go out to the White Rock, or go out to one of the lakes here, be thirsty, and take that stick and smack that rock, and you let me know how much water you get out of that rock. Naturalists will try to explain that what had happened is that when Moses came up there was a rock sitting on top of a natural spring, and when he hit the rock with the stick, the rock moved, and the spring started bubbling up. Okay. I prefer to take the miraculous approach in which when he struck the rock, God provides for Israel water at a place where you would never ever expect water to come. Just like in the next section, you're going to see the Lord provide a great victory by doing something tactically that you just wouldn't do. The universal sign of I give up is how he won the day. Right? Or touchdown, whichever one. Have you ever noticed that touchdown and I give up are the same signal? Cowboys fans? It was there. It was low-hanging fruit. I picked it, okay? I hear the Chiefs are playing today. I was asked to mention the Chiefs last week. The Chiefs are playing today. I take requests. Well, why do we complain? Why do we complain? We look at this and the temptation is to go, man, those crazy Israelites, when will they ever learn? Man, we crazy humans, when will we ever learn? We can receive blessing from God one minute and then turn around and complain for something he hasn't given us yet. Why do we complain? We complain for several reasons. One of the reasons, well, we used to do things this way. Great. How many of y'all remember when you had the option of getting AC with your car when you bought it in Texas? Some of you have been around long enough to remember when AC wasn't even an option for your car in the state of Texas. You had 250 windows, right? You had 250 AC? Yeah, I had 270 AC for the longest time. We didn't used to buy cars that way. How many of you have AC in your car who used to not have AC in your car? But you didn't do it that way. Well, we like the change that likes us. Why can't we do it this way? We had a long discussion this morning in the young adult Sunday, in the older younger adult Sunday school class. Yeah, that's kind of an oxymoronic though, isn't it? But I kind of like it. Older, younger, it has like a panache to it. Anyhow, why can't we do, and it was a discussion of why we couldn't move forward in the abortion issue, and there was two discussions going on there. And this is typically where we are in this discussion. Either the absolute prohibition where we go for the throat every time, or we move incrementally. And there's schools of thoughts on both sides. You have this discussion when it comes to politics. Why can't we do things this way? When I ran the money, the number one question I would get is, well, why can't I spend money this way? Because Congress says you can't. I don't know exactly why they say you can't. It's in a document this big, but all I know is on the first line of the email says, no. So Congress says you can't. Take it up with them. Is it necessary to change? Whether or not you realize it, folks, you are all changing. And it's a necessity. I wish that I need to change to where I'm growing not out anymore. I'd like to reverse the trend of growing out. Anyhow. There are things that are necessary for you to grow. Those of you with little children, the number one question you get asked when you tell a child to do something is not, okay, Mom and Dad, I'll go do it. But they then ask a three-letter word. Do you know what it is? Why? And you answer that question, and then you know what they do? They're like a CNN reporter. They have a follow-up question. Why? Because this. Why? Because this. What? Do it or get a whipping. That's usually enough. Not that happens in my house. The children of Israel are having a failure of expectation issue. They've gotten out in the desert. They are expecting God to make life easy. Folks, if you have come to Christianity for easy believism, the dude is in Houston. He has great smile and good hair, and he preaches an easy believism sermon. It's not Christian. In Christianity, you are told to take up your cross daily and follow Christ. I don't know how many of you have lugged a cross around, but it's not pleasant. It requires something of you. Failures of expectation. Trust me, number one communication problem I have, and when people come to me in marriage counseling, is this issue. Well, when I married him, he was this. But now, he's just a slug on the couch. Like I said, what do you do? He says, well, I work all day, and I came in and I go, what's wrong with that? I don't know what your problem is, lady. To which she's not very happy. No, I don't do that. Failed expectations. Well, I thought this person was going to be this way, and they've let me down. Folks, let me give you a little hint about human beings. Ready? They will all let you down at times. Did you catch that? They will all let you down at times. It's within human nature. We fail each other on a daily basis. Do you want to put your belief in someone who will never let you down? Put your belief in Jesus Christ. If you put your belief in the goodness of humanity, I've watched good people do some horrifically evil things and then claim to be good about it. Failures of expectation. Well, we thought it was going to be this, but now it's this. Another reason why we complain. Well, I know better. Or I could do it better. When I was a machinist, I started off and I was trained by an individual who ran all the manual lathes. And before I left, I was running the entire lathe side of the shop. So the guy that trained me, I'm now training him to run the computerized lathes. And you could tell my programming when it came to machine technology versus John's programming. And when I went back years later, they were laughing at how they could tell a Keith program or an Ashley program or a John program because of the way the program was written. John and Keith most of the times would turn on with one line, they would write one line of code. So one piece of code, then the next piece of code, and they would turn on everything individually per line of code. On an Ashley, I would turn everything on in one solid line. So when the machine got that command, the coolant came on, the spindle came on, and the machine indexed to the spot where it's supposed to be. If you weren't ready for my program, it scared you, and you took a shower in smelly coolant. And they would laugh. They would go, oh, that's an Ashley, and have to turn the manually turn the coolant off, otherwise they were all going to take a shower in coolant. And you know what the difference between those three ways of doing it was? None of them were good, and none of them were bad. They were all different. A lot of times we complain over how things are different, not good or better. You'll fight over the direction in which toilet paper come off the roll. By the way, the patent office comes over to the front way, so the rest of you that go over the back way, you're wrong. Toothpaste. Squeeze from the end, people. We squeeze from the end to the front. You get more out of the roll. Do not do as Stephanie does and from the middle. Every morning, I have to fix that. That's the bear I must cross. And have you ever, as a couple, had an argument over the direction of toilet paper or how you squeeze toothpaste from the end? Those of you who are young, I know I have people do that. We'll look at that in a minute. I jumped ahead of one, but that's okay. Now we'll go ahead and address it. It's an iceberg issue. It's just the part that sticks out of the water. It's the fuse that lights the keg to the real issue. The issue is not the toothpaste. The issue is not the toilet paper. It's just the fuse that gets that party started. Another reason why we complain is because there's challenges to our comfort. We don't have water. That's a comfort issue. It's also a necessity issue. But you had God who gave you water last week, and you had God who gave you water and food last week. You don't even have to go and hunt it. You have the dumbest quail in the world. They show up and don't fly off. You walk up with a stick, and you've got dinner. People complain about deer hunting in Texas. You shoot over a feeder. Here, it's not really hunting. This isn't really hunting either. They walked out and killed a dumb bird. In the morning, they walk out and they get this stuff that looks like dew. They taste it. It tastes like honey. It's really good. And people will start to complain about that. I mean, you want to talk about easy. The only thing to make that any easier if it came self-plucked. Changes of comfort. Well, I'm not comfortable with this arrangement any longer. And what we do is, instead of trying to resolve the situation, we resort to complaining. Lack of understanding of roles and responsibilities. Why do we complain? Because we don't understand roles and responsibilities. Well, why can't I do it this way? Because there's a rule saying you can't. Have a good day. Is that just me? Okay, it's not just me. You all heard that too. Just wondering the voices had come back. Kids usually love this one. How come I can't stay up and watch TV? Because in the morning when you wake up, you're a monster. Go to bed. How come I can't have my own money? Because you'll spend it. Go to bed. We complain over these things. Well, I think I should have a say. I heard this in the Army all the time. Young soldiers come and they go, oh, I think I should have a say in this. Funny, you are here to protect democracy, not practice it. Go back to work. The soldier didn't understand his role. As a chaplain, my chaplain assistant came to me and said, I wished I could have a tent. I said, you want a tent by yourself? Yes. Do you really want a tent? Yes. Would you like to have the Humvee too? Absolutely. You going to give it to me? Absolutely not. What you need to do is promote, and then once you reach enough rank where you get your own tent and your own Humvee, you can let me know and let me know how that works for you. All right? Move out until then. Make sure the Humvee's ready to go and get my tent set up. A lack of understanding of roles and responsibilities. Well, I think I should have the exact same thing as that person over there. You do you? I'd like to find the fairness doctrine in this book. Maybe it's in the appendix. But you know why we really complain? It's because we don't believe God can hear it. And we don't believe that God is ever present. That's why the Jews complained right here. Notice the passage, what it says. Check out what it said. For the people were saying, is the Lord really among us? Again, if the second person of the triune God were to stand right there and say, file past me, Skyline, and give to me the complaints that you have, how many of you would actually go, oh, yeah, I don't have a problem at all. Life's going great. Things look good. Because in the appearance of His great majesty, all the complaints that we have melt away when we understand the gravity of who it is that is before us. The children of Israel fall into the misconception that because while they cannot see physically God there, that He isn't. And when we begin to complain, we honestly believe that God is incapable of hearing us. That's why that place is named Massa and Meribah. Testing and grumbling. That's what the words translate out of Hebrew. And notice who Moses say they test there. They're not testing Moses. They're testing God. See, that's what happens. We begin to lose focus of who we serve. And we really begin to believe that God is incapable of hearing what I'm about ready to say. Because if He was there, would you complain to Him the way you complain to your friend? I think not. Lord knows I wouldn't. Because His response was, did you not see these great things I did? Notice when Job complains, what does God do? God does not look at Job and go, boy, doggone, you are right. I have really messed you over, brother. What is God's response to Job when he complains? Who is this? Who is this that counsels without wisdom? That's God's response. When we complain, we also have a lack of integrity. Because Christian integrity says that when you have an issue with a brother and sister, instead of going to another and complaining against them, you go to that individual. That's Christian integrity. I believe it's in Matthew. I won't tell you the chapter and verse. I'll let you go look at it. It's helpful to read the book of Matthew. It's a good book. I put it on my top 10 of 66. Put it in my top 66 books. One of the things I've always lived by is that if I have an issue with you, I come and talk to you. And that can be attested by many people in this church. Good or bad, if I am in the wrong, I will come and apologize. And here's the thing, some of you have come and talked to me, and I was in the wrong, and I've apologized for that as well. But I have come and talked to you. I have not gone to anyone else. Because that's a lack of Christian integrity. Complaining where you draw another person into the conversation is a lack of Christian integrity. That's why we complain. And it is wrong. And I'm as guilty of it as anybody. Picking up in verse 8. Amalek came and fought against Israel at Rephidim, and Moses said to Joshua, choose for us men. He said, take all the people with you. This is key. Choose men to go. So left behind are men that were not chosen, men, women, and children. And Moses, Aaron, and Hur go up to a mountain early and look out. And of course of the battle, Moses begins with his hands raised high. But how many of you, let's see it, let's all raise your hand right now. Matter of fact, I had some people raising their hands, and those hands have slowly dropped. But you know why? Because it is hard to do this. Trust me. Unless you're French. Sorry, slow-hanging fruit. Sorry. I'll spank myself later. How many of y'all can still do it? I mean, my arms is starting to bug me. And every time you do this, your side loses. And every side you do this, your side wins. And this is a really weird way in which God is going to deliver the children of Israel. Kind of almost as weird as delivering water from a rock. Or putting a stick in bitter water and making it sweet. Or having quail every night for 40 years. By the way, folks, that's a lot of quail. The DFAC in Iraq served chicken every meal. I don't know if there was, seriously, I don't know how you people ate chicken. Because you should see the amount of chicken they were throwing at us over in Iraq. Not literally, but figuratively. There can't be that much poultry in the world. Unless they're rabbits. But notice what happens. When Moses' arms get tired and they begin to drop, Israel loses. And two men, both of them related, Aaron is his brother, Hur is related by marriage. They take a rock and they let Moses sit upon the rock, and then those two men take Moses' arms and support Moses' arms so that Israel can get the victory. And this is a weird juxtaposition of this story right after a bunch of complaining, if you look at it. But I think that it's aptly there because it shows the nature of who human beings are and what they do and what it takes to be self-serving. Or selflessly serving. Got that backwards. Think about holding up another man's arms for a long period of time. I'm sitting down, I'm going to put my arms like that, I'm going to invite some people up here to hold my arms up, and then I'm going to put my weight of my arms into your arms. And you get to hold the weight of my arms. That gets to be heavy as well. And you have here in the end, the climax of several stories of complaining, the picture of two individuals who selflessly come and hold up Moses' arms to ensure that victory is won for Israel. You don't hear them go, "Geez, Moses, did you not put on right guard today? I don't understand why I got to hold up your arm. You shouldn't have made this statement, Moses. Why couldn't you said, as long as I sit on this rock, Israel will win. But if I stand up, Israel will lose. For goodness sake, Moses, why couldn't you have picked a different test for God?" And the text doesn't record that at all. It records they went and held up his hands. And they held them there so that Israel got the victory. What type of person are you today? Are you individuals that hold up ministries within the church without complaint and ensure that they are successful for the victory of Jesus Christ? Or are you a person that are going to complain about ministries that occur in church and ensure that there is no victory for Jesus Christ? Because the world watches us, folks. And they hear our complaints. You may not believe that God can hear your complaints, but the world can. Visitors in the pew hear it when we complain. And then they have an option to return or not. Complaining is the easiest thing you'll ever do. All it requires is you to run your mouth. Service is the hardest thing for you because it requires you to give something of yourself. It required of something of Aaron and Hur to hold up Moses' arms. It requires nothing to gripe. And it's easy to do. Which person are you? Well, you don't understand. This person hurt me. Oh, I'm sorry. Let me find that passage. Oh, here it is. If you have an issue with your brother, it's over in Hesitations, by the way, and you realize it and you're at the altar sacrificing, tell the Lord what he did, and the Lord will say it's okay. Is that what it says? No, it says if you have come to offer your sacrifice unto the Lord and you realize that your brother has an issue against you, you are to leave your sacrifice there. Go and make the situation right. Then you can return and sacrifice. But you don't realize the cost of what has gone on. God doesn't care. There's no caveat in the text for, well, as long as it's a justified complaint, then that's okay. You never hear the song, complain in the Lord always, and again I say complain, 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 and again I say complain. You will never hear that song sung. By the way, I think it comes from a scripture verse, right? Rejoice in the Lord always. And again I say rejoice. Rejoicing is hard. Complaining is easy. The Christian walk is hard. Sinning is easy. You see the parallels? What type of person are you today? Are you a complainer for the sake of complaining? Well, I don't like this. Well, this isn't fair. Do you know many of our complaints are first world problems? There are Christians today who are worshiping on this Lord's Day who have greater worries than whether or not someone got their pew, or the preacher may run long, or the Cowboys play at noon. I don't care what time the Cowboys play today. Their greatest concern is whether or not the police are going to kick in their door and haul them off to a prison where they will never see each other again. There are Christian people today that are in the hands of radical Islamic groups that are being tortured on this Lord's Day. And their greatest fear is whether or not they will live the day. And our greatest fear is somebody may take our parking spot. When you put it in that kind of perspective, those seem kind of petty, don't they? What kind of person are you today? Are you a lifter up of the ministry of Jesus Christ for the victory, or are you a tearer down through complaints of the ministry of Jesus Christ because you find it easier? That's what's going to compel the church into the next century. Those who put their hand to the plow and not turn back. You're here today, and you have been coming to Skyline for a while, and you would say, I'd like to be a member of this body of Christ. I exhort you to come forward. My microphone will be turned off. I'd love to talk to you about these wonderful folks and the fellowship of believers that is here, that you can find the warmth of Jesus Christ. You're also here today, and you don't have a concept of who Jesus is. But you would like to know about this God who delivers His people from the hand of oppression, from thirst. I'd love to sit and talk to you about the wonderful grace of our Lord and Savior. As the praise band comes to sing, if you will stand.